Bren Shuler will give his personal reflections of Frank. He has known Frank since 1993.
Frank Gualtieri was a friend of mine, someone I considered and valued as a congenial colleague. Being as he hailed from Boston and had lived in Rhode Island, and that I grew up in Maine, we had that New England connection in common. He could park the car and have a yard with the best of them. As Ruth said, I first got to know Frank in the summer of 1993 when I began working at the director's office, and he was the Math and Sciences academic coordinator. In those days, all the academic coordinators reported to the director. Before he became an administrator in the early 1990s, Frank came to the Asian Division as a faculty member in 1986. Like any full-time Marylander teaching in the overseas program, Frank lived the itinerant life. Overseas over the years. Again, Okinawa, Misawa, Kanto, to include the now closed Kamiseya site, Iwakuni, Kanto, Misawa, Kanto, Okinawa, Kanto, Sasebo, Kanto, Sasebo, and finally, Kanto. By the summer of 2004, Frank had settled into primarily teaching full-time with distance education and conducting computer-aided teleconferences, or CAT courses. He was one of the first to teach online or at a distance courses in the fall of 1992 and spring of 1993, and was one of the first CAT course managers when the program first began in 1997. As an administrator, Frank had nearly as an itinerant existence. He first had office space in building 420, would have been over here, that was used by the textbooks in the Ed Center. The site is now the location of the bank and credit union and its associated parking lot. Then he may have briefly been in Building 530, a former fire station, that is now the lighted intersection from the main airlift or former Bob Zine Avenue, leading to the BX Commissary Complex. Next, he shared workspace with the Japan area office in Building 206, which has since recently burned down. After this, he moved to the common room of Residential Tower 3000, located on the West Housing area, and then ultimately to our present location in Building 445. Fortunately, these facilities are still standing. Frank enjoyed dining, and apparently stated there were only 3 major food groups: vanilla, chocolate, and strawberry. Well, in honor of Frank and to recognize his keen humor, I am wearing my food tie today. I will just keep it on. Many of us, of course, are aware of his great wit. Frank, knowing my sons Masato and Makoto, often asked me, "Bren, how are your toes today?" Or, "How's your big toe and how's your little toe?" Many of you are also quite familiar with Frank's love of photography by now. Put that together with his humor and look out. He once took a picture of our mutual friend and former Asia colleague, Beverly Ware, standing next to a calendar showing 15 March, just so that he could capture "Beware the Ides of March." Lastly, I feel both humbled and honored that I may have been the last Marylander to converse with Frank face to face. We had a good talk, both about the future and about the people from the past with whom we had both worked. I told him I would be in touch with some of them, and he was looking forward to receiving their emails and messages. Throughout the hour we spent together, he was his usual unassuming and gracious self. He seemed upbeat and in good spirits. But before leaving, I could not spare him this joke. "Frank," I said, "I once thought about being an organ donor, but my heart wasn't in it." He chuckled. "No, really, I was thinking about being an organ donor, but the idea of somebody picking up all those pipes." By then, Frank was really laughing. So please rest assured that while Frank left us much too soon, he left us in good spirits, and knowing that many from the Maryland family, both past and present, cared greatly for him. Thank you. Now, as Kelly also said, we have other remembrances from other Marylanders. I want to share one with you today. This one, I know you're here, Bill, but this is from Bill Bergloff. Frank's death is a profound shock and a great loss to us all. Osco said he would like some remembrances, and I have just a few. Frank was a Renaissance man who could discuss knowledgeably an astonishing range of topics. He had learned Japanese to a high level, and I believe knew more French than we had the opportunity to observe. He was skillful in a wide range of computer software and applications. And then there were his official fields of physics, mathematics, astronomy, electrical engineering, and so on. Frank could have managed the publications office well, and of course could have taught Japanese. He was a master of the English language, not only as a good writer, but also so very clever with jokes and puns and wordplay. I can't really remember good examples, as so many were ones that came up and allowed us to have a laugh and then get back to business. Here's one, though, that involves Japanese. One day we were talking about the name University College and how one might explain it in Japanese. I wish that former President Ray Ahrensberger had chosen a different name for UMC all those years ago, but that is another story. Here's Frank's solution. Since Daigaku in Japanese translates both as college and university, our university would be Merurando Daigaku, Daigaku, Daigaku. He was quite objective about his preferences and being set on what he liked to do. Thus, he suggested this mathematical equation with the Greek letter delta meaning change in or difference. Delta Frank equals 0. No change in Frank. One of my more recent memories is the lunch I had with Ruth and Frank so kindly hosted for me, in which he presented to me the enlarged frame hyphen in honor of my well-known insistence on correct punctuation, including hyphenation. It was hilarious. I really can't think of anything much more. I have so many memories, but not that many quotables. He was such a wonderful friend and fine colleague.